when he addressed Congress. In fact, I would have to say that was the best speech in that historic congressional edifice since the heady days of Ronald Reagan. Unfortunately, as well done and spot on as Netanyahu's speech was, if the federal government had been doing what it is constitutionally mandated to do, the Prime Minister's address would not have been necessary. For starters, for almost 7 years, the Obama administration has been conducting its own personal war against American military might. At present, our republic no longer has the capability to engage in two major wars or conflicts simultaneously. That development alone has emboldened the Muslim enemies of freedom to flex their terrorist muscle like never before. Thousands and thousands of Christians and black Muslims have lost their heads due to sword or knife-wielding dedicated Muslims who have decided to play God and choose their day of death. Millions of other people throughout the world are either hoping or praying that somehow, some way, someday, America will soon recover from her current stupor of Obama-induced decline and show of weakness. Thanks or no thanks to the tepid approach in dealing with the most destructive dedicated Muslim enemies throughout the Middle East, the Obama administration has helped strengthen the resolve of ISIS Muslims to swarm like murdering locusts, killing infants to great-grandparents for sport. In his speech before a joint meeting of Congress, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu warned,
"The greatest danger facing our world is the marriage of militant Islam with nuclear weapons,"
warning that the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, may be an enemy of Iran, and they are both fighting for the crown of militant Islam. The Prime Minister added, to defeat ISIS and let Iran get nuclear weapons would be to win the battle but lose the war. We cannot let that happen, Netanyahu said. Netanyahu's speech was a warning to President Barack Obama not to enter into a 10-year deal with Iran to lift international sanctions in exchange for the promise that Iran will curb its nuclear capabilities. I find it rather Bush League for the United States government to allow itself and the world to continuously be made a fool of by Muslims who decades ago declared war on the West and who continue to act on that declaration. Any military strategist that understands the concept of knowing the enemy would have either researched or by now realized that you cannot trust a dedicated Muslim in negotiations. In the book, What Every American Needs to Know About the Quran, William J. Federer lays out for all to see the deceptive customs of the Islamists who believe it is okay to lie to infidels or non-Muslims. Considering that Islam defines the entire non-Muslim world as the house of war, or Dar al-Harb, it is acceptable to always lie and deceive non-Muslims. Knowing that Muslims at war, either planning or actual, are going to seek to deceive non-Muslims. So why on earth will the United States not take a harder stand against Iran, who has threatened both America and Israel? Unfortunately, the United States government continues to put we the people at risk by shrinking the military, weakening the economy, and not dealing from a position of strength against our enemies while disrespecting allies like Israel. Oh, by the way, Russia and China are both salivating at the prospect of a weakened United States of America. So the question remains, will the United States put up or fold up? I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You can catch all our show archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. 866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted financial expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known and syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time, firsthand, from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Bob airs live every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on blogtalkradio.com/Robert Cardoso Live, or you can choose any one of his archive shows at blogtalkradio.com/Robert Cardoso Live. That's blogtalkradio.com/Robert Cardoso Live. For complete and honest commentary on politics, finances, and culture, check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Good evening, America, and those listening around the world. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate with your host, John Matthews, self-ordained, politically incorrect, mad prophet of the airways. The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most knowledgeable activists and pundits today that together seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement with those seeking the truth regarding the similarities and differences between the religion of politics and the politics of religion.
Well, by getting on Larry King and telling everybody I'm a Christian and I wasn't raised in a Muslim home.
Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim majority country. I know because I am one of them. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. But I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
Unless we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place, remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ.
At what point does a baby get human rights, in your view?
Well, I think that whether you're looking at it from a theological perspective or a scientific perspective, answering that question with specificity, is above my pay grade.
I've got 2 daughters, 9 years old and 6 years old. I'm going to teach them, first of all, about values and morals. But if they make a mistake, I don't want them punished with a baby.
As long as we've got to fight to make sure women have access to quality, affordable health care, and as long as we've got to fight to protect a woman's right to make her own choices about her own health, I want you to know that you've also got a president who's going to be right there with you, fighting every step of the way. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. God bless you. Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is. We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And now, your host, John Matthews.
Okay, we're back. Now we're tuned right here on Syndicate. Again, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we hope you enjoyed the first hour there. Kind of a lengthy discussion, as often happens on this show, but one of the things that we have heard from listeners, I've heard this from more than one of our listeners, is they like the idea that we broach or breach topics that a lot of people don't talk about. Right now, everybody's talking about Hillary or talking about Ted Cruz, that kind of stuff. You can go anywhere and hear that. But you come on this show, you're going to hear some off-the-wall stuff. And we spent the first hour talking about whether or not immorality across the board should actually be considered a civil right. And if it is, then maybe we just need to quit making laws. I guess that's the essence of what we're talking about. Margo Kaplan down there at Rutgers University claiming that pedophilia is not a crime, it's a disorder that needs to be treated because it could be in their actual DNA and physical, psychological makeup. Well, then we can say the same thing about homosexuality, because that's the basic argument of homosexuals, is that they were made this way. They didn't choose to become homosexuals. They were made that way. And we could say the same thing maybe about sex addicts. How about even murderers? If people are serial killers, could we say that it's in their makeup, that they were born that way, and so therefore we don't need to treat them as criminals? We'll just treat them as people that maybe need reconditioning or rehabilitation or training. But then if you do that, are you not violating their civil rights?
Yep.
If that's the argument.
Just have a disorder.
Yeah. If they have the civil right to have a disorder, and it's part of who they are, and one, you can't identify them, you really can't call them out on that, because that's profiling, that's a violation of civil rights. And why do we need any moral compass? Everything is okay. And let's just, there's utopia. Everything is okay, Anyway, it sounds extreme, but hey, who would have thought?
Everything's okay.
Yeah, well, who would have thought, this is my bigger point. We're going to bring Ron Edwards on in just a moment here, but here's my bigger point. We have seen the advancement through the homosexual agenda in the last 5 years expand so quick the whole concept of what immorality is. And this is one of the biggest arguments against this type of stuff in terms of activism. Again, I am not attacking homosexuals. Sleep with who you want. I don't care. What I am saying is that the effect that the activist movement has had on society, that has brought legislation into play, pandering to voting blocks that did not used to exist, and all these other things, is just accelerated the demise of the country as a whole. And nobody seems to see that because everybody's too busy screwing each other.
Okay.
I guess that's the only way I can put that.
Figuratively or literally?
Anyway, I want to start off this segment. We have Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook with us now doing his weekly segment. And I'd like to start off a little bit light because we were heavy, hardcore last hour here. I'd like to ease Ron into this stuff. It's not fair to us be up here and going into overdrive, and he just comes in fresh and has to adjust to who we are and what we're doing. First of all, how you doing tonight, Ron?
I'm doing very well. Good. And you guys are on all cylinders. And I was hoping to jump right into the fray there because I had something to say concerning these garbage heads that want to, portray something as abnormal as going to bed with children as something like a disorder. That is patently evil to say something like that, because first of all, if you look back in the history of the socialist movement and the progressive movement in this country, that is one of the planned tactics that they would take, because in order to take down a nation like the United States of America that can only survive as a republic under the auspices of a free and moral people. But once you disengage the people from morality and standards, then the nation becomes more there's an excuse for government controls and all other things that just bring about the collapse of a free nation. And so under this